Welcome back to the Expanded Minds podcast. Today's episode is going to be the last 30 minutes of an interview I did on Grandmaster Wolf's channel. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the description for the rest of the interview and enjoy these 30 minutes.
As you know, I deal with a lot of depressed people, unfortunately. And a great many of people are starting to worry about their children becoming depressed. And one of the biggest things of today's children becoming depressed is they have been so isolated from the planet that produces your body for you by wearing shoes all day long, walking on concrete, staring at a 4-inch screen all day long, swiping. They completely, and then when they look up for a few moments, what do they see? Concrete buildings, cars, bitumen. And this is what's depressing these kids. It's not what they're thinking. It's because they're absolutely isolated and detached from the earth. And what I found, and it's not a discovery of mine, it's something that I was taught as well. If you can get these kids to take their shoes and socks off and just walk on the grass for half an hour and go to the beach and feel the sand between their toes, or just have them paddle in the waves and, just ankle deep and walk through the water and have some trees around them and point out the birds in the trees and the woodpeckers pecking holes and things. These kids, they shrug off their depression within hours. It's incredible what happens. I don't know why I went on to
that. Well, lovely. We can talk about mental health a little bit. So like in one of your interviews, you talked about how in your clinic you can put your own energy into people as well as like take control of their willpower if they allow you to help better their mental health. So like, can you share an example of like when you did this?
An example of when I did this or how I did it?
When you did it.
There was one person, I'm not going to mention names. There was one person, it was a woman. She wasn't too old, wasn't too young, maybe mid-40s. And she was having heart problems. And she'd seen many doctors, she'd seen neurologists, and it all came down to eventually they told her that they was going to have to do some operating on her. And of course, once they told her this, the heart problems got worse because she was now terrified for all the obvious reasons. I'm going to have to go into, unfortunately, the placebo effect and psychology. These all come into it, and energies. So for her, it was a matter of me getting her complete trust. It was a matter of her understanding that what I do, although has the same outcome of many medical practices, I'm coming more from a monk's viewpoint or a mystic's viewpoint on how things work. I need to digress again just for a moment. Science is the absolute pinnacle of our strategies and tools for uncovering truth. Scientists, however, are people. Science is a wonderful thing. It's irreproachable. Scientists come at it with fear. They come at it with bias. They come at it with preset models that they refuse to let go of. When I say fear, scientists come at these things with the fear of being laughed at. For instance, most people already know this, if as a young scientist you discover something that is outside of a preset model and you pursue your discovery or your theory, you can be laughed out of your career. You will be shunned by other scientists. UFOs is a good example of that. Anyone dabbling into looking at UFOs up until several years ago would have probably lost their career and been belittled and laughed at and told that they're stupid. Of course, now everyone knows that they've been there forever, and the governments have now come out and said, yes, they're there, but we've never known what they are. That's why we hid it all from you. But it's become a reality. Grey Fox is a man who has been uncovering ancient civilizations for years and years. He's got the evidence, he's got the proof, he's looking in. He's not a scientist, actually. He's a journalist, but he still went this way, and he's uncovered and got the evidence that we have been around for not 6,000 years, but 20, 30, 40,000 years, and some even say up to 100,000 years. So there's evidence of civilizations on this earth that were there before the Ice Age. The evidence is there, and more evidence is coming up as the ice caps are melting. However, archaeologists still run him into the ground, but he has the courage to keep going, and I hope he does keep going. He's got great support from the everyday people. So what I'm getting at here is, when it comes to healing people, you can't just approach it scientifically. Real science is when you, excuse me, you understand and realize that consciousness, awareness, mind, and love are a big part of everything in life that is going on, and these things have to be brought into our scientific explorations. There's a few scientists have realized that, for instance, the double slit experiment, where if you look at a subatomic particle, it's a solid particle, but when you look away from it, from that particle, it becomes waveform. You look at it, it goes solid again. You look away from it, it becomes a waveform. These are subatomic particles. You and I and the entire universe is made of subatomic particles. So that would imply that everything that is solid, apparently solid matter at the moment, means that something is looking at it. It's up to you to decide what that something might be. I'm not going to go into that. So that's scientific fact. Now, getting back to healing people. The woman that had the heart problem, it was very simple. Do you trust me? Yes. Do you have faith in what I do? Yes. Is that a religious faith, or just faith in what you have in me from the time you've known me and how you feel about me? No, it's not religious faith. It's just that I know you and I feel quite good about you spiritually and mentally, and I trust what you're going to do. I've already half healed that woman just from her saying that to herself and to me. So now I would put my hand on the bottom, have her lay down on a bed. I put one hand on the bottom of her foot and say, can you feel anything coming from that hand? Now, whether she can or she can't, and I'm putting love in there, and I need to regress a little bit here. There are many ways to heal someone, but the way I was taught was, if I see someone suffering, let's hypothetically from cancer, and they are suffering and they are feeling pain, I would prefer to have their cancer than to see them suffering. That is enough to start healing someone. That love, that's pure, unadulterated, universal love. So I put my hand on there. You explain this to people, of course, so they can get a picture of what you're talking about and what you're doing. So I put my hand there. Can you feel anything? Yes. Excellent. I put my hand on the knee. Can you feel anything there? Just a moment. Yes, I'm feeling something. I don't ask what it is they're feeling. I went, great. That means something is going to happen. My next hand goes up over her heart, and I place my hand on the heart. I say, now, can you feel that? And she will focus, and she will start to feel and focus on what she believes is healing love from me. And that's all there is to it. Whatever the universe, whatever life is doing to make that happen, science will call that a placebo effect. But from that, within 24 hours, this woman has healed herself. She has never had palpitations. She's never had chest pains since. So she is healed. So what I'm talking about here is, as a mystic, you understand the ability to create miracles in people. And what I mean by that is, it's no different to you going to a doctor and going, oh, I've got this problem and it just won't go. I can't get rid of it. I've seen other doctors that they can't fix it. This doctor will give you a sugar tablet. You don't know it's a sugar tablet. But if he's got you in the right state of mind, he'll give you this tablet. He'll say, if you take this tablet tonight at exactly midnight, 12 o'clock, because that's when the body, he'll give you some physiological reason. That's when the body starts to close down and heal itself. And you do deep breathing for 3 or 4 minutes after you've taken the tablet and lay in bed. This is a hypothetical. Tomorrow when you wake up, you'll be pretty much healed and the pain will be gone and you'll be fine. He will create a placebo effect in you. You will believe that the tablet has done its job and you will have created a miracle in yourself. People go, oh, that's just placebo, that's not real. What? It healed you. You healed yourself. What? That's real. It happened. So placebo, the word placebo needs to be exchanged for the word miracle, especially when it happens. It's getting into hospitals now. There is now such a thing as placebo surgery, where they'll take you into surgery. They'll cut you open. They won't do anything. They'll cut you open and then they'll sew you back up. And the next day or 48 hours later, the lump or whatever it had you had in there has disappeared. Your body has gotten rid of it by itself because you believed that you had been operated upon, but you hadn't. This is a fact. This is happening now. You can, it's not even hidden. There's documents written about this. And this is how I heal people much of the time. All I need is to have their faith, to let them know that I would prefer to take on their problems than to see them suffering. And you've been in a room, and I'll explain this in a sec, what I was about to say. And that's all I need. And together we produce a miracle or a placebo effect. And that will cure everything and anything if you can make it happen, from cancer to psychological problems. That's the placebo effect. Now, just one little piece that I would like to add to that when it comes to feeling someone out and having faith in someone. In a completely different scenario, how many people do you know, and you yourself, you walk into a room, someone's home, after they've had a severe domestic argument. You haven't heard the argument, you didn't know they were arguing. You've walked into their home and you think, whoa, you could cut the atmosphere in here with a knife. You're feeling something bad that happened. You're feeling the anger, you're feeling the angst that were in those people. And in the same way, when you really care about someone and you really love someone, whether you know them or not, they feel it. And when they feel it, miracles happen. You can make miracles happen. And that's the power of, this is going to sound naff, but that's the power of universal love. The ability to work with that and use it as a tool, and understand that not everyone would believe you if this is how you spoke about it. Sometimes you need to speak about it in scientific terms. Even if you have to use the word chi. If they believe in chi, but they don't believe in universal love, you go, okay, I'm going to put some chi into you now. And if they believe and have faith that you are a chi master, boom, you've just created that effect and you will heal them. I'm not saying that chi itself won't work that way, but this is how I do it. I've completely forgot what you asked me, but I enjoyed saying all of that.
I can totally relate to that, though. I mean, the question is more along the lines of mental health, but either way, that can still apply to mental health. Because, like, Yeah, I've spent like time healing people as well. Like I've a couple of years ago, but I put a lot of time into like giving my love to people. Um, I was more
Mhm.
part of a Christian sect at the time, so it was like we did just how you described it. It was like that, you know. But we considered it the love of God was healing them, things like that. But the thing though that with the placebo thing that you mentioned, I kind of saw it though as like sometimes energy would like a lot of energy would just come down and actually come down and heal a person. Whereas like when I've seen it kind of be placebo, it kind of seemed like the person was closed off, and then it took a while for the person to actually warm up. Like you had to do some work. There's times where like I feel like a lot of like energy is present there, and it's available for that person to get healed. And then there's times where like they're closed off. Like I would say it's just their ego shielding them from seeing that love or whatever. And so usually sometimes it doesn't even happen because there's this barrier of,
Mm.
and there's times where actually sometimes that love will crack through their ego and then they have a new experience, whether it be a healing
Absolutely.
one or like a realization of like a higher self so that, you know, but
Yeah,
I think, yeah, the term placebo is very, it's, it's kind of harmful.
it
I think
is.
it's more just the fact that people have like a strong ego and they don't know how to let go of it and experience that bliss and that higher mind. So that even if they don't get healed, they still have something even greater than that. So
Yeah, yeah. This is why I was saying the word placebo is not good. It needs to be replaced with miracle or love. Um, like I said, also every culture has different ways of doing it. If you're in a Christian situation and the person you're talking to has great belief in the Christian way, um, that will work as well. It's as long as there's faith and love, it can be done. What the faith and love is, it depends on the situation and the people you're talking to, of course. As a mystic, I'll jump from one to the other. If I'm working on a Christian, we'll refer to it as Christ, if we, etc., etc., etc. When it comes to mental health, I have actually a completely different approach. Um, I've spoken about this many times. To me, there's many ways of doing it, of course. If you're a psychiatrist, you'll be using chemicals. You'll give the person chemicals and say, oh, your serotonin's not working, so let's give you these, or your uptake receptors aren't working properly, so they'll give you some other chemical. That's how they work on it. But that, of course, is a terrible way to be doing things when you're talking about mental health. Psychology will have you work with your thoughts and understand your thoughts, and give you exercises to try and replace thoughts with better ones and try and keep you positive, and all of that. They have their ways of doing things. For me, it's purely a matter of showing you and taking you away from your thoughts and watching your thoughts being ill. As soon as you do that to someone, there is an immediate effect. This isn't a belief of mine. I don't deal in belief. Belief is a complete opposite of a fact. A belief can only exist in your head. If that belief actually exists outside of your head, it's not a belief anymore, it's a fact. So belief only exists in here, and you can work with that. That has its potentials. But a fact is a fact whether you believe it or not. You see the difference. So anyway, if someone has mental illness, if they're psychologically depressed or psychologically psychotic, let's say, some forms of psychosis, if you can get that person to sit back in their mind, raise their consciousness a little and watch their thoughts being psychotic, they have this realization that, one, wow, that's just my thoughts. I used to think that was me. And two, wow, I didn't realize I had the power to jump out of my thoughts when they weren't behaving themselves and do something about it. Suddenly, if you don't understand these things, when you're in your thought process and your thoughts are being depressed, you think it's you that's depressed. When your thoughts are confused, you think it's you that's confused. But if you can step out of them and watch them being confused, suddenly you're not. You just have this tool in there that's not working quite right at the moment, and you have absolute power and control to step out of there at will. And that's not difficult. That just requires a couple of exercises and you get strong at it very quickly. That's how I deal with mental health. Then from there, I can have the person change their diet, feed their brain, mental. There's two kinds of, in this respect, there are two kinds of nutrition for mental health. There's the nutrition that we all know about, good food, lots and lots of fruit and vegetables, lots of nutrients, lots of good clean water, and your brain will start to heal itself. And then there's the other side where lots of good input, lots of lovely thoughts, lots of nature, lots of rest, lots of peacefulness, listening to the waves on the beach. That is also mental nutrition. If you put all of that together, those two sides, the person starts to heal very quickly. That's how I approach mental health.
Yeah, and like also, I would say the ego is somewhat schizophrenic as well. Like
Oh,
especially when
yeah.
I start to unglued from my ego, it's like having three televisions on, three different TV shows, all playing at once. And so if you're in that and you're focused on that, then most of the time it's insanity. Like it's it's a crazy. So when you start to like unpack it and unglue and unravel those thought processes, then it starts to come to like a halt. And then you can actually see on people. I mean, I don't know if you've experienced it too. Like you can see on people's faces just the serenity after they've
Yeah.
cleared out of it, and then they're just like little saints right there. But yeah,
One
that's
of the
I think what was it?
Sorry, one of the exercises that we did in Tibet, I was training to be what I guess you could call a Tibetan medic, which is why I learned the things that I've learned. Now, one of the things I was told was that if you've never been, and you brought this up, if you've never been insane, you can't really fully help an insane person, because to an insane person, insane things are normal. Insane things to an insane person is sanity to them, which makes it very difficult for you to use reason and logic to work with insane people. So if you've never experienced insanity yourself, it's very difficult to understand an insane person. So there are breathing techniques, which I went through, and exercises which will make you insane. And I sent myself insane for over 12 months on purpose. I was being watched, I was being taken care of, and then I was brought out of it. It was reverse engineered. There's ways of doing that as well. But once that's finished, there's not much about insanity that you don't understand. There is understanding insanity by reading books that were written by people who have observed insane people for many, many years. That's one viewpoint, and that's fine, and there's things that can be taken from that. But to actually have been insane yourself means that you've experienced what they are now experiencing. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been there under controlled conditions.
Yeah, it's not fun.
It's an insane practice.
Yeah. And my last couple of questions here. This is gonna be like my little random questions that I had. So first one is, have you had any divine intervention in your life?
All life is a divine intervention. Otherwise, you would be dead. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Excellent. That's not what you meant, though, is it?
In my head, it's like, has something that seemed like it was other came into your life and prevented a harmful incident from happening to you, something like that.
Only my own mind. There are times whereby, okay, I'll try and give an example here. I've ridden motorbikes all my life. I have a beautiful Harley Davidson now, which is one of my best friends. But I've had a few motorbike accidents, and when you have a motorcycle accident, it's very fast. The bike comes out from under you, and all you've got time to see is sky road, sky road, sky road, because you go and things are breaking as you're going along. But for some reason, when that happens, something else kicks in. Some survival trait of the higher mind kicks in, and you pull yourself out of it. There are times where a car might be racing towards you, not on a motorbike now, and for some reason something kicks in and you can just jump out of the way of this car, and it's only a few minutes later you look back on it and you think, how the hell did I get out of that? If you have a belief system, you will call that, you will go, that was a divine intervention. But it wasn't. It's your own mind. You have to have faith in your own mind. There's a part of you that can kick in that you wouldn't believe is there. There's a typical story of the woman who, you know, a 50-kilo woman suddenly can pick a car up off a child, a burning car. She picks it up and because there's a baby trapped under there. If she had a belief system, that would be seen as a divine intervention, but it wasn't. It's in you. It's a superpower that we all have. There's experiments and demonstrations where you can actually bring this out of people. The military is very good at bringing this side of someone out when necessary. I'll give you a for instance of the divine intervention thing. There was you brought up Christianity, and please, Christians, don't. I'm not putting anything down here whatsoever. There was a gentleman. He was quite young and naive, and he was, I guess, what you would call a born-again Christian. And he'd had a serious back problem for a long time. He could hardly walk. He was pretty bad, and one day he was so bad he just needed to lay down, and there was this horrible dilapidated old couch in the corner of this person's house, and he just said, I just need to lay here for a few moments. So he laid on this couch, and we all heard his 3 vertebrae go clunk, 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 which would have happened anyway. I do this on a regular basis. I have a bad back. Immediately he jumped up, he felt fantastic, the pain was gone, and he dropped to his knees and started praying and thanking for the divine intervention. Now, of course, you can take anyone with a bad back, if it's that same situation, warm that back up a little, lay them in the correct posture, and just give them a little touch on their belly, and the vertebrae will all fall into place, and it will be very loud. You'll hear this clunk, 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 and it just falls back into place. That's just physics. So divine intervention, it depends how you want to look at it. It really does.
Yeah, definitely.
You see what I'm trying to get at? I'm
I see what you're trying to get at.
Very, very hard here not to trample on people's beliefs. As a mystic, huge believer in science and practicality, and not giving away your own power and your own spirit to belief systems.
And last question here. Have you ever encountered aliens, Sasquatch, ghosts, or any other ETs? And what are your thoughts on them?
Well, you're an alien. I have had experiences. Let's leave it that way.
All right, lovely. It was nice having you on, Grandmaster Wolf. Love talking to you.
Wonderful being here, Ezekiel. Thanks for inviting me again. It was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. All right, have a good rest of your day.
You too, buddy. You take care.